I think if you start your habits small, they can grow. And I think it's important to understand, too, that growth, when it comes to your habits, is not linear. It's not that you're constantly going. It looks like W's. It's up and down and wavy.
I'm saying that if you want results, that what's required of you is things that you don't feel like doing, you're going to have to override those feelings sometimes. So, AKA, I don't feel like going to the gym, but I know I should. Knowledge versus feeling.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, Next Level University weekly live podcast. Week number 68. You can't get to the next level without next level habits.
So it's interesting. We just rebranded this from Meetup to Live Podcast. And what we wanted to talk to you all about today is, so Kevin and I just got back from Colorado. We were at a trip, and we were in a room with 20 to 30 people. I'm not exactly sure how many, but it was a very intimate setting for like 3 or 4 days straight, talking about how to get to the next level. And one of the things that Kevin and I did realize is that our habits are actually more on point than we even thought. And so today is going to be about how to design a life around the things that are going to get you closer to your dreams. Habits isn't the sexiest topic in the world, but at the end of the day, and I think Kevin's quote is basically, your future self is predicated on your habits. Something along those lines.
I think my quote.
What was it?
I think it's a little bit better. The biggest difference between the person you are and the person you want to be is your habits.
Okay, absolutely.
See how it just rolls off the tongue at the end?
No, it's excellent.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. So we each have 4 points, Kevin and I. And the first point that I have is just the habit loop. So I didn't create this. There's 2 great books. One is called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and the other one is called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And both of those books are backed up by tons and tons, decades of research. And basically, I'm going to go off James Clear's reference here. So he says there's something called the habit loop, and there's 4 steps. There's the cue, there's the craving, there's the behavior, and then there's the reward. The cue is the trigger. It's the reminder. It's the visual or auditory cue. So the example I use is a text message. So imagine your phone dings and it's the sound of a text message. Okay, that's the cue. The craving is you subconsciously start to wonder, who might that be? Does someone need me right now? Okay, and it creates a craving of, I really want to go see who it is. I want to see what they have to say. I want to see why they're reaching out. The behavior is you get up, you go to your phone, and you open your phone and you look at the text message. The reward is the dopamine hit that you get from getting certainty. So this is really what's happening here. When you get a ding of a text message, it creates uncertainty because you're not sure who it is or what they want. The craving is going and getting certainty. Once you open the text message, you now know who it is and what they wanted, which gives you certainty. And that's why our phones can control us if we don't do the next one that I'm going to talk about, which is controlling your environment. But basically, that's the habit loop. The cue, the craving, the behavior, and the reward. Remember, all of us are byproducts of our environment. If you grew up in a household that all played chess, you're most likely good at chess. Not because you were naturally inclined to be good at chess, but because that's what you guys did on the weekends. That's what you were around constantly. Who is it that... the Mannings... They're both,
Eli and Peyton,
they grew up in a football household, right? Gronk and his brothers are all super athletic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just whatever your environment is definitely dictating your future to a drastic extent. And so if you want to control who you are, you have to understand this habit loop.
As Alan mentioned, we were blessed to be in Colorado last week. It feels like it was like yesterday, honestly.
Right.
But I had a conversation with somebody, and one of the questions I asked him, I said, what is something from coaching many people that you have learned? Like, what's a common thing that you've noticed? Like, what's the word I'm looking for? A common pattern. And he gave me his, and he said, what about you? And I said, honestly, humans struggle to be consistent. I've just noticed over time that it's just a real struggle. And he said, why do you think that is? And I said, honestly, because it sucks. Because it's easier not to be. It's easier to break your habits than it is to keep them because we are signed up for convenience, right? You can't drive down the road without seeing a Dunkin' Donuts or a Starbucks or a McDonald's or an In-N-Out burger that we happen to frequent partake in. So the lesson that I learned when I was doing the most consistent version of myself with our peak performance tracking, I went like 90 days straight without missing a single thing. Now, this is what I learned. Just because you don't want to do it doesn't mean you can't. And on the flip side, not all of your habits are going to be super sexy. That was a huge lesson for me of you're not always going to want to do the thing that's going to help you get to the next level, but you'll be grateful that you did. Part 2 of that, having the accountability of seeing the team and seeing how well the team did and the team seeing how well or not well I did was super helpful. Find somebody that you can have an accountability group with. Like figure out, okay, who has similar goals to me? Is it a WhatsApp group? Is it a Facebook group? Is it a text message group? Do we check in once a week, bi-weekly, once a month? Like, I think that humans don't have enough accountability, and you can hide behind the screen, and you can justify not doing the things. I believe that, as Alan said, the biggest difference between the person you are and the person you want to be is your habits. It's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be sexy, but you'll be grateful that you did it. And if we can get to that understanding of, we're all looking for a quick fix, I think. I think it's just human nature. And when it comes to your habits, I can't work out for you. I can't get you fitness results. There's certain things that you have to do yourself, and I think it's just an interesting understanding and important that you understand that because it's going to make it a little bit easier to do the hard things.
In Colorado, there was someone named Lauren Johnson who talked about habits, and she made a really good point that I actually forgot to write down here, but it was about friction. There's a reason why Amazon has one click. And there's a reason they have free 2-day shipping for anyone on Amazon Prime. It's because human beings naturally, put it this way, this is a good example. If you want to work out consistently but your gym is an hour away, you're not going to do it. You're just not. Versus my gym is now actually 3 minutes away from our new home, and we are going to go way more consistently, not because we're more motivated, but because our environment is set up for the path of least resistance being right there. And literally, it's 3 minutes there, 3 minutes back. That's a total of 6 minutes out of our way. And we're already noticing that being way different. So remember, friction. The more friction and resistance there is between you and your habit, the less likely you do it. I'm going to say that one more time. The more friction between you and your habit, the less likely you do it. This is why Amazon is one of the most successful e-commerce businesses, honestly, businesses on the planet, is because they create no friction between the customer and the product. As a matter of fact, Jeff Bezos is basically Acorn, the very beginning philosophy of Amazon. A lot of people think it was to have the biggest e-commerce website ever. It wasn't. It was to help the consumer make a purchasing decision easily. That's what ran them back in 1994. That's what's still running them now. And that one philosophy is his understanding of habits and how if you add friction, human beings are less likely to do it. And if you take away friction, people are more likely to do it. Last example I'll give on this, fast food versus meal prepping. Which one's better for you? Everyone knows the answer, but which one's more expensive? Which one takes more time? Which one's more challenging? And that's why most people eat fast food, and I'm guilty of that too. I'm not calling anyone out. What I'm saying is it's this understanding of habits. Convenience is everything. Make your good habits convenient. Make your bad habits more challenging. And that way you can take the path of least resistance.
I was actually going to get Taco Bell the other day, and I did what you were just talking about. I created more friction with the understanding of, okay, I'm in my pajamas. Number one, I'm in my pajamas. Number two, I'm going to have to change my pajamas, put shoes on, walk down to the car, drive 8 minutes, and I don't like the drive. It's not like it's all highway. I got to go through the city. Then I'm going to have to come back 8 minutes. And that's, honestly, I do that fairly often, but it's harder if you have like delivery because you can just dial a button and it'll show up at your house. But that's what, for me, it's always that. Create more friction when necessary.
Right.
That helps me. You're up.
All right. So number 2. So this was actually an incredible moment for me. So I'm at the gym, the new gym, and I'm on the Stairmaster, and my last goal, I hit 100 flights. Now I wanted to hit 110 flights, and so I'm determined. I'm on the Stairmaster. It's Saturday night, and very few people are in the gym. And earlier when I was walking to the Stairmaster, there was this person who looked over at me kind of weird. And I'm new to the gym, so I figured no big deal, whatever. I just went about my day. And I'm out on the Stairmaster, and I'm looking out the window, and all of a sudden someone comes into my vision from the right, holding up their phone, pointing to the phone, and they're listening to Next Level University. It's a really, really cool moment. This person ended up being from Mass Maritime, and he didn't end up getting to go to our speech. So for those of you who don't know, Kevin and I spoke at Mass Maritime in person before COVID, and he wishes he was able to go. He wasn't able to. But anyways, I shook his hand from on the Stairmaster, which was interesting, and we talked a little bit. And this person was talking about how basically, and I'll keep it anonymous, they're having a really hard time right now. The reason they're having a really hard time is that they're trying not to drink. They've quit drinking. The last time they drank was July 4th. And if you're out there right now, you know who I'm talking about. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. But there's basically people in his environment that are all drinkers. His persons, places, things, and ideas are all surrounded around drinking. And so him being in the gym alone on a Saturday night, he literally said, right now I just got texted by 3 different people saying, where are you? And he said that it was National Tequila Day. And I didn't even know that it was, but I totally understand and can empathize. So my point here is you got to control your environment. If all the people in your environment are drinking and you want to quit drinking, it's going to be 1,000 times harder to not drink in that environment than to just leave the environment. And so now he's in the gym on a Saturday night by himself with people like me and Emilia. We ended up going and talking to him and having this incredible conversation. And shout out to you if you're out there listening. But basically, that's my point is if you're in an environment that does not support your habits, it's going to be very hard to change them. Because all the triggers, when I first quit drinking and I started to go all in on fitness, I remember what it was like on a Saturday night when all my friends were out partying and having fun and barbecues, especially in July. I mean, July, everyone's on vacation, people are going to the beach bars. You're seeing the pictures all over social media. But remember this, positive habits are hard to create and easy to break, so you got to be careful. Bad habits are easy to create and hard to break. So he's trying to take a bad habit and break it. It's very, very challenging if you're not in the right environment.
Great work. Shout out to that listener of ours.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that when you start habits, there's 2 things you can do. 1, you can make it super easy and assume you're not going to get anywhere. 2, you can go all in and burn yourself out. I have seen this quite often with whether it's clients, or I know this has happened on the team. This has happened to Alan and I. You start up something new and you say, okay, I want to do 100% of what I'm doing every single day. Then you burn out and then you want to do nothing, right? All or nothing. I used to be very like that when it came to dieting. I was either sticking to my diet or 1 cookie would turn to 40 cookies because it's like, well, I've already Jeffed it, so I might as well Jeff it further. We learned from Lauren Johnson, the lowest common denominator. So I think a lot of people really make their habits difficult. So think of it this way. If you did, instead of saying I'm going to exercise for an hour, if you said I'm going to exercise for 5 minutes, instead of saying I'm going to read for an hour today, I'm going to read 1 page. Instead of writing a page, I'm going to write 15 words. I think if you start your habits small, they can grow. And I think it's important to understand, too, that growth, when it comes to your habits, is not linear. It's not that you're constantly going. It looks like W's. It's up and down and wavy. And if you don't understand that going in, you're going to assume that you're losing when you don't have 100% days. So a little bit of math. I know this is usually Alan's thing. If you did 80% of your habits for 7 days, so just do 8 times 7, that's 56, so 560, versus doing 100% of your habits for 5 days. That's 500. So you'd be more successful if you just did 80%. A spotty 100 is not good as a consistent 80%. Lori Harder taught us that, I believe, on episode number 34. So get out of the mindset of I have to do everything every single day and switch that to I have to do something every single day, or I get to do something every single day. It doesn't have to be 15 hours a day to get your habits done. It can start small and focus on the least amount of effort that you can put in to actually get results. It doesn't have to be an hour in the gym. 5-minute walk is a great place to start. Build that habit, build the positivity, and then go from there.
And the key here is that when you set up to go on a 5-minute walk, you're more likely to start, and then you'll most likely do more than 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. You know, if you make it this overwhelming mountain in your head, there's going to be a lot of resistance to you starting. Remember, motivation doesn't usually come until after you start. We think we need to be motivated first. If anyone's out there listening right now, I can guarantee you've had this moment. I should go to the gym. I want to go to the gym, but I don't feel like it. And then you start to rationalize, like, well, I'll just go tomorrow. Instead of just that same amount of energy that you just sat there and rationalized, you could have just put on your running shoes, or you could have grabbed your gym bag. For me, I like to take pre-workout. For me, that's the trigger that starts the craving. Kevin and I were just traveling. We went to the gym, I think, 3 of the 4 days. And basically, when we take our pre-workout, Kevin is like, we got to go, and we got to go now, because if we don't, I'll end up just wanting to chill. And that's the thing. What is your routine? What is the thing that's going to motivate you prior to starting? And then realize, like, make the barrier to entry small. Once you're there, you'll end up doing it. But if you make it this huge mountain in your head of, I got to go to the gym for an hour and a half, unless things are perfect and line up perfectly, which they rarely do, you're not going to go. So one thing I wanted to ask Kev. So basically we have peak performance tracking, and at this point, there's dozens, I want to say hundreds, there's not, but there's at least there's dozens of people that have done peak performance tracking, and I've never once seen someone with a flat line. I've always seen this cyclical nature. Even Kevin, for 3 months, who was 100% for 3 months straight, still ended up doing the cyclical thing. So you're not alone. No one is as consistent as you think. It's not about never missing. It's about how quickly can you get back on. And there's a concept called never miss twice. So what I want to ask Kev is basically this. Go back to the days when Kevin didn't track habits, didn't even study habits, didn't have that quote of your future self is the byproduct of your current habits. I know I keep jumping the quote.
Okay.
What was it like for you to start learning about habits?
For me, I think it was difficult to understand that I could change. I know that I had a fixed mindset, so I assumed the way I was the way I was supposed to be forever, or the way I was the way I was going to be forever. I think I was lucky because I had fitness as an example, and I saw what small changes in consistent effort and fitness gave to me. So once I started understanding that that worked with other things, it helped me. But it was very foreign of, if you read 10 minutes a day, like, that can change your life. It just didn't make sense. Like, how can 10 minutes a day do anything?
So now you know that. What's your new perspective on reading 10 minutes a day?
Honestly, my new perspective is 10 minutes is better than 0 minutes, but not as good as 40 that I try to get every day. But then I just do the math. That's 70 minutes a week, probably 3,500 minutes a year. So what's that, like 60 hours? Something like that?
It's wild.
That's a lot of time. Like, that's a lot of time. 60 hours, so that's watching 60 episodes of Breaking Bad. Imagine if you learned that whole time. All the time that you invested in Breaking Bad. That's what I do. I just think of it that way. But I also think that most people don't see the small wins until they add up. Like, you have to understand that it's actually making progress. And you might not learn, you're not going to learn a lot in 10 minutes. But after you finish that book and you're on to the next one, that's when you really start to learn. And if you see any change in Alan or myself, particularly me, it's because I'm just consistent with learning. I just think I've learned more in the past. I've learned more in the past year than I did the year previous, than I did the year previous, than I did the year previous. And then the first year I really started learning, I learned more in that year than I think I did in my entire life. And that it's just the compound effect is just catching up.
It's unreal. James Clear calls this the aggregation of marginal gains. And I've talked about this before, but again, the reminder is so critical. When Kevin and I hit 600 episodes, we had a photo of 100 episodes, 300 episodes, and 600 episodes that he created. I put $1,000 into a financial calculator, and I wanted to calculate if it grew by 1% for 600 days straight, how much money would I have? It was $384,000, which means that if Kevin and I improved by 1% per episode at podcasting, speaking, oratory, then we would be 384 times better.
A shameless plug too. These guys are the absolute real deal. For anyone who's listening to this, Kevin and Alan are the realest guys. They're going to go so far, and they're so early in their journey still, because I just know how far they have to go. And everything that they teach, everything that they preach and they're doing is the same exact stuff the top guys are doing. They literally have mimicked it to a T. So I absolutely shameless plug for those guys. They have all the greatest intentions to just simply help people grow and want to accomplish their dreams. And so I absolutely just want to say that and let you guys know that you guys are doing an incredible job with everything that you guys are doing for just the community that you guys are building. And, I love to see it, and I can't wait to be able to do more stuff with you guys.
If one of the reasons why I've been trying to post more transformation photos, I posted a photo recently of my 21st birthday where I was literally kissing a bottle of Grey Goose at Foxwoods. And one of the reasons why I posted that and I wrote verbiage there of like from the heart of like how I feel now in hindsight from that version of myself. One of the reasons I posted that was because I want people to see the aggregation of marginal gains. I didn't wake up in shape. I didn't just wake up smart and intelligent. I didn't wake up with all these positive habits. It was so incremental and it was so slow over time. There's that analogy of the inner tube. When you're at the beach and you're on a tube, if you just waited 10 minutes in the tide, you're going to wake up literally a mile down the beach.
I won't do it.
Because of sharks?
Because of sharks.
Because of sharks.
I won't do it.
But like we've all suffered from drift. And then all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, holy crap, I was just enjoying the sun. That had to be 5 to 10 minutes and you're a mile down the beach. See, that's what our habits are. They just shift us ever so slightly in the wrong direction. And then we wake up 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. No one wants to get divorced. No one wants to go bankrupt. No one wants to lose their home. No one wants to be obese. These are hardcore topics, but the truth of the matter is every one of us is drifting in a direction. We all have a certain trajectory, and are we taking back control of the reins, I think is the main question.
Have you ever gotten surgery?
Mm-hmm.
What did you get surgery on?
When I broke my nose.
You broke your nose. You got surgery on that?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. When I tore my labrum,
snap it back.
they just when I tore my labrum, I got it. They basically like pin it to the bone, which is the whole thing. I don't know if you can see it. Probably not. You see it? No, you can't see it on camera. But I went to Matt's mom, who's a physical therapist, and just talking about the power of consistency. You first go in there and you're capable of reaching a certain degree level of your flexibility, and every time she stretched it a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and it was painful and I cried more often than not, but it stretched and stretched and stretched to the point where it was back to normal. We always use the splits analogy. I cannot do the splits right now. And I honestly am not committed enough to do this, or I would have done it by now. But I was like, okay, Alan, imagine if I did this. I tried to do the splits every day for 30 days. And at the end of the day, I bet you I might be able to do the splits. It's like that with everything. Just most people aren't consistent long enough. And
30 days probably wouldn't do it.
I don't know. I don't know what the...
Probably need like a year.
You think a year?
Yeah.
I'm not in for that.
Maybe I'm just less flexible.
If anybody wants to... I think I can probably get closer than you.
Most likely.
Then you want to do it right now? We'll do it after.
No.
Okay, you're up.
Am I?
Yeah.
All right. So far we've talked about the habit loop. We've talked about why habits are so important. We've talked about the aggregation of marginal gains. So there is... A lot of us talk about good habits and bad habits. I want to reframe that for everybody. It's not a good habit or a bad habit. It's an aligned habit or not aligned habit. And that is predicated on a goal. So I had a client once who basically told me that she was struggling financially and that she was having a hard time with her intimate partner, and basically that she wanted to make sure she saved enough money to know that she'd be okay on her own if she had to move out. And it was a week and a half later that I saw on Facebook that she had bought a brand new car. Now, again, I'm not going to judge her. Her choices are her own choices, and I make that clear with all my clients. I say I can guide you, and I can tell you my perspective, and I can help you become aware of what I'm aware of, but at the end of the day, I want you to make your own choices, and I'm just going to express my truth, whatever, take it for what you will. So do I think that that was a good decision? No. I think it was an unaligned decision based on the goal she had told me she wanted. The goal was to save money. Now, the car that she purchased was not a cheap one. And now I know that she will be not as close to her goal of saving money and having that nest egg in case something bad were to go wrong. Now, the point is this. If you're out there right now listening, you have aspirations. You have goals. If your goal is to be in the best shape of your life, going to the gym is more aligned. If you don't have a goal of being in the best shape of your life, not going to the gym isn't necessarily as bad. And so what I want everyone to understand, they say life is about the journey, not the destination. But here's the problem. The destination you choose in advance dictates the journey. I've said this a dozen times, more than that. Driving from Boston to LA is very different than driving from Boston to New Mexico. Different than driving from Boston to Canada. So the journey is entirely predicated on the destination you choose in advance. If you have no goals, you've chosen no destination. And now all of a sudden, imagine someone who has 0 goals. No health goals, no wealth goals, no love goals, no goals. Everything's aligned. There's no downside to not exercising. There's no downside to spending more. and not saving and investing. But if you have a goal to be financially free, all of a sudden it's more aligned to save money. It's more aligned to ask your boss for that raise even though you're scared. It's more aligned to get a financial advisor or someone who knows more about finance. Probably not a financial advisor. Go with someone who you trust, who just knows more about numbers than you do. But that's the thing. I don't want you to think of habits anymore as good or bad, because that's all subjective. I want you to think of them as aligned or not. From 0 to 10, how aligned is this decision? If it's 10 out of 10, do it every single time. If it's a 5 out of 10, maybe there's a better decision. And that's a really good tool. Ask yourself that question. I ask myself that often.
I wrote this down, and Alan and I were going to kind of pitch and catch on this, but you have to be brutally honest with yourself. So I can remember back when Alan and I had first partnered up, and I was like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm working from home. I get to do whatever I want. And I was literally smoking weed every day. And it would be like Tuesday at 11, and I'd be like, cool, done for the day. Like, I'm gonna go do my thing, hang out, play video games. And for a while, I convinced myself that I could be successful because Joe Rogan did it. Like, Joe Rogan gets to smoke when he wants, and he gets to work out and interview people. He just kind of does what he wants. He's funny. Cool. I can do that too. But it took a lot of reflection. It took a lot of honesty with myself to say, look, you're not going to get what you want out of life if you don't do the things that are necessary. Again, I don't think I knew exactly what was necessary yet, but it was a really hard conversation of this is no longer serving me. I'm more aware now and I understand the downside of this. This is no longer serving me. Will I be able to accomplish my goals and do this at the same time? The answer was no. One of the other reasons, so obviously I was having a lot of anxiety at the time, so that definitely helped. But I remember thinking this, what if either a client, and this was before I had a lot of clients, but what if a client or Alan or somebody on the team messaged me late at night and they needed something and I was like too high to do it? Like, what would happen? There's been plenty of times where it's like, hey, Kev, Amy's called me multiple times. Hey, there's something going on with StreamYard or Zoom's not working. Like, can you help me? It's like, imagine if I was like, no, I'm high.
Yeah, right.
I'm too high. So I wouldn't be able to run a business like that more likely than not. So I think it's that extreme ownership of, look, this isn't serving me. If I don't change something, will I enjoy the result that I'm going to get? I know it's not always that easy, and I wanted to ask you this. How do you out-logic your emotion when it's coming to, like, I don't feel like doing this right now, but I know it's the best for me? Like, what's a good process for people? Not you, because I know you just do it, but, like, what's a good process for somebody that might struggle with that?
Yeah, so what's important is to look at what reverse engineer regret. So I optimize for fulfillment, and the best process is this. So if you are out there, we have a system called PMES, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Some people are M's, which means their thoughts are more important to them than their feelings. And there's some people that are E's, where their feelings are more important to them than their thoughts. The M's tend to be better at success and business and self-discipline. The E's tend to be better at relationships. And very few people are good at both, from what I've studied and what I've understood. That said, we all have the capability to be better at both. So E's tend to be very, very good at going to the gym when they have a gym partner who's relying on them, because relationships matter most to them. M's tend to be really, really good at self-discipline behind the scenes because they go off of their logic, not their emotions. So emotionally, everyone understands that a lot of times you're not going to feel like doing a difficult workout. It's human nature. We don't feel like it. But logically, it makes sense if we want to achieve our goals. So M's override their emotion and choose the logical thing. So how do you do that if you are emotionally driven? You have to, instead of looking at, I don't feel like doing it, you have to acknowledge, first and foremost, like, I tend to do what I feel. If you're out there right now and you're emotionally driven, do you usually act on things you feel like doing? Because I will tell you from experience that most of what I do in a day is things I don't feel like doing. I'm not saying you have to be like me. I'm saying that if you want results, that what's required of you is things that you don't feel like doing, you're going to have to override those feelings sometimes. So, AKA, I don't feel like going to the gym, but I know I should. Knowledge versus feeling. Choose knowledge. And how do you do that? You focus on how you're going to feel after. I believe that self-esteem is built. I believe that self-confidence is built. And I believe that self-love is built. I don't think we can delude ourselves into these things. I think that self-esteem, self-confidence, self-belief, self-worth are actually byproducts of keeping the promises we make to ourselves. So when you say you're going to go to the gym and you don't, you're taking a self-esteem hit. You're taking a self-respect hit. You're taking a self-love hit. You can sit there and chant affirmations all day. I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. But if you keep letting yourself down, you probably really don't. And then you're going to have to keep telling yourself that story. So to answer Kevin's little original question.
If you're little question?
It's on accident. Original question. Basically, you know what the logical choice is. We all understand that if we want more money, we're going to have to make more money, save more money, invest more money. We get it, right? It's logical, it's obvious, it's simple. Doing it is another story. Reverse engineer regret. We've all felt like crap about ourselves at times. You can choose discipline today, doing what's hard and necessary, or you can choose regret tomorrow. And regret weighs way more than the discipline. So start small, build, and I think self-esteem is the goal. Just know I'm going to have self-esteem and self-worth after this. I think everyone wants that.
And I think you have to make it a habit to do the hard but necessary thing. No, I didn't say this on the podcast. When we were in the room with Nick and everybody else that was so amazing, somebody was talking about doing stuff that they were afraid of. And I said, I know you've seen me raise my hand and ask like 20 questions. Honestly, I'm not asking the questions because I want the answers. I'm asking the questions because I need to consistently get out of my comfort zone. It started with us going to Lori Harder's event in Boston, and I was like, okay, Alan, I'm going to ask a question in front of 200 women. Like, let me do that. Then Tara and I went and saw Simon Sinek in New York, and I was like, I have to go ask him a question. Like, I don't want to know the answer, but I need to ask him a question to prove to myself that I can do it. And I tried to ask Tom Bilyeu a question at Brendan Burchard, but there was 3,000 people, so I didn't get chosen. But that's a habit for me. A habit of, I know this kind of sucks, I know you're afraid, and I know you want to shell up and hide in the corner, but if I never started that habit, I wouldn't have it now, and I probably wouldn't have the results I have. Again, for you, great analogy, or a great story. I had a client who said, hey, one of my biggest fears, one of the things I struggle with the most is making phone calls, because I grew up with alcoholic parents who used to drunk dial me. And I was like, my goodness, I'm so sorry to hear that. Like, I can imagine how that must make you feel. I can imagine the trauma associated with that. What I would do is next time you order pizza, call instead of do it on the app. Small. She did that, right? It went from that to her doing videos on her social media. Small. Prove to yourself that you can consistently get out of your comfort zone by making it a habit, and I guarantee your life will look different. I guarantee it. Now, I know it's difficult, but you have to attach necessity to it. And when you do it long enough, it becomes your identity. I'm the guy now who goes places and asks questions because it makes me nervous. That's who I've become. Instead of the person who used to go places and used to shell up and hide, I do the opposite now. I try to face my fear consistently, and I think that's a habit that anybody can instill.
I want to share this as well. I didn't have this planned. I'll give you guys what I believe to be the most important, the Earth's core of habit change. Start caring more about the promises you make to yourself than anything else. I care more, genuinely. Okay, this might sound crazy, but I just want to share it because I think it's important. Showing up to the gym when I said I was going to by myself matters more to me than letting 1,000 people at a speech down if I canceled it. That sounds really far-fetched. Someone asked me recently on a podcast I was on, what does it mean to be next level? And for me personally, just me, but I know Kevin shares this. What are you doing when no one's watching? See, habits are done behind the scenes. Like, nobody can go to the gym for you. Kevin already mentioned that. No one can eat healthy for you. No one can achieve your goals for you. Like, there literally is no way around it. And I think that whether it's marketing gimmickry, or everybody wanting the quick fix, I just want to give you this cheat code. The cheat code is this. Start caring more about what you're doing in private than you do in public. if you can really do that and not just hear it as some motivational phrase, but like actually like embody that, I think that your whole life will change. Because everyone here kind of knows that peer pressure can really run us. And the NLU team, I'll just speak for that. It's like peak performance tracking is something that I do think is not a natural thing for people to do. In Colorado, and any event we've been to, there's not that many people who track every habit every day. But yet our entire team does it. Why is that? It's because peer pressure. And it's not a negative peer pressure, it's a positive peer pressure. This sense of belonging, we all want to belong, but I think that what we're guilty of is doing things that are common that other people are doing. Like we all celebrate 4th of July. We all celebrate Christmas. We all get a Mother's Day card on Mother's Day. I'm not saying those things are bad. What I'm saying is like we always show up for those. Always. Who here has ever missed a Christmas? I mean, Kevin and I did once in Florida. But the point is that imagine if you showed up every year for you. There are certain things we never miss that are social. Like you'd never miss your best friend's wedding, but why are you missing workouts with yourself? You've got to realize that your future is entirely predicated on the decisions you make now. And if you can shift that mindset, simple shift, but it's so critical. I care more about how I show up when no one's watching than when everyone's watching. And if you can do that, I promise you your life will start to change. And that wasn't planned, but I really wanted to share that.
Last point before we take questions. This will be a quick one. I remember, and Alan knows this story, but I remember when I was doing my second bodybuilding show, I remember laying in bed starving, like unreasonably hungry, not able to sleep, just anxious, angry, sore, overtired, but just starving. And I had a pint of Ben & Jerry's downstairs. And I remember walking down the stairs and thinking to myself, like, I am not going to eat this. I'm not going to eat this. I'm not going to eat this. But then I thought to myself, is what I'm doing actually worth it? Like, do I even want to go compete again? Do I care if I win? Is it worth not going out to dinner with Taryn? Because Taryn and I were dating at the time. And I just hammered this pint of Ben & Jerry's. I just hammered it. I texted Taryn. I said, hey, we're getting pizza tomorrow. Like, we're getting pizza tomorrow. I'm done with this diet bullshit, pardon my French. But, like, I'm not doing it anymore. Why? Because it was no longer worth it to me. Will it be worth it? You have to understand and make sure that the habits that you're partaking in are worth it. So one of the episodes that we've gotten the most love on is when we interviewed Steven Kotler. He wrote The Art of Impossible. Little does anybody know that that was like our 130th message that Brandon, shout out to Brandon, sent. Like, we have sent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of messages out to people in order to get them on their show, and a lot of the A-list people are busy. Like Matthew McConaughey, I'm not sure what he's doing, but he's probably doing something pretty good. So when the time comes, he will be on here. It just hasn't happened with a lot of them yet, but we're doing it consistently. It's a habit that somebody on the team does every day. The results that you're seeing, the people that are way, way, way ahead of us have either done it longer, they've done it smarter, or they got lucky. That's all, right? That's all. We're in a room in Colorado with people who are 15, 20, 30, 40 years older than us that have results greater than us. But when we get there, hopefully our consistency will have paid off. Last point. When you go to the gym for 2 weeks in a row, you don't see any change. Almost nothing happens.
Nothing.
Right? If you track your finances for a week, nothing happens. You get awareness, but nothing really happens. Understand that when it comes to your habits and consistency, you have to play the long game. You have to adopt the mindset that this is the type of person that I am, not this is what I'm doing. I am the type of person who tracks my finances. I am the type of person who exercises and is into fitness, or I'm an athlete. Start to adopt that mindset, because it's not something you do, it's something you are, and it's something you become. And I think that's an important distinction. Also, if you are afraid of asking questions, I challenge you to make it a habit to either put it in the chat or to message Amy privately.
Strong work, brother.
Appreciate that. Amy, what's happening?